All right, Saagar, what's on your radar?
Well, former Vice President Joe Biden scolded Fox News reporter Peter Doocy yesterday for daring to ask him about a report out of Arkansas that Hunter Biden is the father of a young woman's child born out of wedlock. The young woman had to sue Hunter for child support in Arkansas, and Hunter went out of his way to emphatically deny to the New Yorker back in June that he was the father. DNA tells another story, and we don't have to get too much into that, but let's take a listen to Biden himself's response.
I have no comment. But only you would ask that. You're a good man. You're a good man.
Thank you guys. This is all
Classy.
the time we have.
Couple of things to unpack there. First, that Biden chastised Doocy for daring to ask him about the report. And second, that a reporter in the clip can be seen rolling her eyes that the question would dare to be asked. I'll just say this. I used to cover the White House during the Stormy Daniels affair. And let me tell you something. Not a single one of these same people cared about asking Trump about lurid details, even when First Lady Melania Trump was around. They don't want to touch this story solely to protect Joe and Hunter Biden. The media isn't reluctant to touch the story because they think that a candidate's personal life is above the fray. They're systematically going out of their way to infantilize and protect Hunter Biden because he's at the center of the impeachment inquiry. Michael Barbaro, who is host of one of the most listened to podcasts in the United States, angrily accused conservative radio host Hugh Hewitt earlier of attacking, quote, a candidate's child. Let's leave aside the fact that Barbaro loved tweeting things about Bristol Palin back in the day. And remember this. Hunter Biden is a 49-year-old man. He's literally old enough to be my father. And in the years of his adulthood, he's skated by on his family name, cashing checks from Amtrak, prestigious law firms for influence, Romanian oligarchs, the Chinese government, and yes, a Ukrainian energy company. It's clear that Hunter used his last name and the perch of privilege in order to fund a crack cocaine habit that got him kicked out of the military and obviously mixed up in some very sordid, now public things. And the former vice president never once got Hunter to stop this behavior. He continued letting him trade off of his family name. And in the case of the Chinese deal, at the very least, he gave him more esteem ahead of a major transaction whenever he took him to Beijing on Air Force Two. Biden has consistently become enraged when asked about his son's business dealings, flipping out on the same Fox News reporter months earlier. Let's take a listen to that.
Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
And so how do you know?
Let's talk about, here's what I know. I know Trump deserves to be investigated. He is violating every basic norm of a president.
The former vice president then said on the debate stage previously that he remains, quote, proud of Hunter's conduct, and that even though Hunter apologized on camera to Good Morning America, that he didn't have anything to apologize for. All of this is to say is that these are legitimate lines of inquiry. Hunter Biden's credibility and his business dealings are at the heart of an inquiry as to whether we will remove a sitting president of the United States. His conduct, his unproven denials, and yes, his father's insistence not only on backing him up, but seemingly facilitating much of his behavior is not beyond scrutiny whatsoever. Biden let it slip when he looked at Doocy contemptuously, and he said, only you would ask me that. Sadly, he's right. So much of the rest of the media has decided that Hunter is a poor little misunderstood baby and that Joe Biden has done absolutely nothing wrong. And Crystal, I mean, I think it very much speaks to the credibility of Hunter, in which he denies on the record that he had anything to do with this woman. DNA obviously proves otherwise. And his denials and his word on these matters are actually now important to a massive investigation at the center of American politics.
Here's my thing. Yeah. Number one, Democrats better buckle up because
first of all, if you think Trump isn't going to
talk
about this, go ahead.
These are ready. I mean, they tweeted out, congratulations, Joe Biden, when the paternity. Like, this is coming, right? On this, if Biden is the nominee, this is all coming, and you better be ready for it. It speaks to, remember yesterday we talked about how the DNC's freaking out about Tim Alberta maybe moderating a debate. Like, really, you can't take questions from Tim Alberta just because he once worked at the National Review? These people have got to toughen up. That's the bottom line. And look, here's my other thing with Hunter Biden, okay? Look, I don't judge someone who struggles with addiction. I think it's a public health crisis. I think it should be treated as a public health crisis and not a criminal justice issue. However, Joe Biden does not. He
Right.
just came out again and said that marijuana should not be legalized. He is one of the most key architects of the system of mass incarceration and the modern war on drugs that has imprisoned so many black and brown men for doing the thing that Hunter Biden was doing when he was sitting on the board of Burisma making $80K a month.
That's
and
the most
it is
important
so hypocritical and so speaks to the privilege of a rich white kid who is actually a grown man and the treatment that he gets because he's the vice president's son versus anyone else in this nation.
That's actually the most important point here, which is, and that's why I really think this is a legitimate line of inquiry, which is, look, Biden supported and facilitated Hunter's conduct for the last 30 years. The board of Amtrak, his position on this law firm, this Chinese deals, the Ukrainian energy company. Hunter openly admits he wouldn't have any of this if it wasn't for his father's last name.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like you said, pursuing all of this criminal conduct, and yet faces zero consequences. Kicked out of the military for cocaine use, obviously funding, an addiction problem. And look, like credit to him, he went to rehab. I'm glad he figured it out. But a lot of people don't make it to rehab in this country. A lot of people don't get third, fourth, fifth, seventh, eighth, ninth chances in order to make $50,000 a month and fund their addiction. This is a story about class and about how these people think that they can get away with anything. And it's only now that America is starting to wake up.
Their kids should be handled with their children.
Exempt,
Again, he's an adult. Let's not
He's
call him a
49
kid.
years old.
But that they should be treated with kid gloves.
Yeah.
That they should be endlessly forgiven, which, again, I'm for that. But that is not the system of criminal justice that this guy set up. And here's the other piece. If you want your family to be off limits, don't let them trade and profit off your name.
Yeah.
Because the moment you do that, the moment that they are implicated in everything you are doing and speak to your credibility and their credibility. And as you said, this is now the center of a national impeachment inquiry. So it's not off limits. It's certainly not going to be off limits if he's the nominee, and he needs to get used to it.
Exactly. All right, I'm looking forward to your radar next, Crystal.